Hello, I'm Brian Parks, Chief Storyteller of Synapse Software. In this video, I'd like to give a quick tutorial of Strategy Canvas, our new app for the Mac, and some of the new features we've added in the most recent release. On my screen here is a completed strategy canvas or value curve depicting some of the attributes or elements of performance surrounding the different value areas for a custom software development project. Here we have three curves representing the traditional outside consultant in green, a new in-house development team in purple, and an existing in-house development team in orange. And these are kind of loosely thrown together, so depending on your consultant, your in-house dev team, your policies surrounding documentation, some of these points might change for your organization, but it's a good example to get us going. So with this strategy canvas, we can notice a few things. First of all, if you're familiar with the strategy canvas from Blue Ocean Strategy, you'll notice that this strategy canvas is on its side. So in Blue Ocean Strategy, the attributes are listed along the bottom, and then the curves are listed the way you would see a line chart being presented. If you're familiar with the book Value Innovation Works, this is similar to the value curve that you're familiar with from that book, with the attributes down the left-hand side and the curves on the right-hand side. We chose to go with the attributes on the left-hand side and the curves on the right-hand side because it's a little bit more readable, a little bit easier to edit in this view. If you're familiar with the presentation in Blue Ocean Strategy, this is exactly the same as in that book, just rotated 90 degrees. So first of all, let's go through selecting a curve to work on. While you can select a curve simply by choosing the curve in the drawer, which can be shown in hidden via the window menu, this hide curves drawer option, you can also click the curve directly and it will select, and it'll update in both the drawer and on the actual canvas. To set a value, let's say for organizational knowledge, you want to encapsulate how well your in-house development team knows the organizational knowledge, not just of your organization as a whole, but each individual department's policies and procedures. Maybe because they're a team unto themselves, this isn't necessarily as high. They don't deliver quite so much value along that axis. Furthermore, maybe you want to measure documentation in terms of how many pages. So you can specify that this is measured in number of pages. Now, number of pages is a number, whereas this value is kind of a point along this slider. So while these values do correspond to numbers that get stored, you can think of this being 1 and this being 9, and the dots in between indicating numbers in between 1 and 9. You can also specify the exact number of pages of documentation. So let's say we mean 400 here, and let's say for our new in-house development team, we expect they might deliver a few more pages of documentation, let's say 500. And a consultant, we expect them to deliver 600. So we can specify absolute values for these metrics. Now, if you want to add an attribute. Let's say you want to encapsulate not just maintenance cost and upfront cost, but maybe project management cost. You can do that as well. This would be in dollars. Maybe this is in $K. You can make the metric whatever you want. It's just text, purely for display sake. So these numbers don't factor into any calculations. They don't get combined with the metric in any way and get interpreted in terms of other attributes or anything else in this software. The only thing that any of these pieces of data is used for is to present exactly what you see. So this is a true what you see is what you get editor for the strategy canvas or the value curve. Let's move the value delivered for this project management cost. Now there are two schools of thought when it comes to how you determine the value delivered by a cost. In Blue Ocean Strategy, Kim and Mawborn used higher price to denote higher value, and built their strategy canvases with the notion that if something had a higher price, that meant it had a higher value. If you're comfortable with that definition and that use, this software is perfectly comfortable with that. The other school of thought is that the reverse is true, that higher cost is actually lower value because we spend more money and we like that less, so we get less value out of that. We end up actually giving value in exchange for the value that the other attributes provide. So with that definition, the higher the project management cost, the lower the value delivered. So we'll start with the green curve since it's selected here. For traditional outside consultant, let's say in our experience we have kind of there's a significant project management cost on our side, so we'll say the value is somewhat low. For the existing in-house development team, we'll say that our project management cost is relatively low, which delivers relatively high value. And similarly, if we have a new in-house development team, well, we probably don't have any necessarily project management infrastructure, so the cost is going to be relatively high, delivering relatively little value. Now, let's say these attributes are not necessarily in the order that we want them to be. Organizational knowledge is not the most important attribute to us. Well, we have really two new rank ordering methods. You could always do the manual method. Simply drag one attribute to another position within the table. So let's say organizational knowledge is the least important thing. We can drag that to the bottom and the curves update. Now let's go with a pairwise comparison rank ordering method. In order to do that, we're simply comparing each attribute against each other. So is documentation more important than continuity? No, continuity is probably more important. Maintenance cost, is that more important than continuity? Let's say it is. Project management cost maybe is less important than maintenance cost. Upfront cost being more important, and so on and so forth. And we can choose one or the other and get through all the pairs. And now we have a new curve, or a new ordering, that indicates that documentation is the most important to us. Continuity is the next important. Maintenance cost is the next important. Project management cost is the next important. Upfront cost is fifth. And organizational knowledge is the least important. Now we can also use analytic hierarchy process, or at least the first half of analytic hierarchy process, the process that determines which of several attributes is the most important based on a weighted distinction between two pairs, each of a pair. And this allows us to get a more even distribution and ensure that everything is consistent within itself. So if documentation is more important than everything else, it floats to the top. If maintenance cost is more important than some things, but not as important as others, it will float somewhere in the middle, regardless of whether we would have chosen maintenance cost over project management cost. In fact, we might have chosen them in the opposite order, but in the overall scheme of things, maintenance cost ends up being the more weighty attribute. If we, for whatever reason, wanted to remove a curve, we can simply remove it using this minus sign. Select it in the drawer and click the minus sign. Same thing with removing an attribute. You can select an attribute and click remove. Finally, we can select print to print our strategy canvas, and using the print button or the print option from the file menu, you can save to PDF. You can then import it into slide presentations, or transform it into a graphic, which you can then turn on its side if you want it to be in the orientation shown in Blue Ocean Strategy.